Kelvin, you wanted to say something on this point. Are you seeing activity from private equity managers?
I mean, in my first guys, obviously, I looked at private equity, and it's one of the hardest ones to tokenize with regards to what rights do you have as a token holder. So that's already really, really messy. And quite often it doesn't have a cash flow attached to it. So no coupon payment or cash flow. It's like, what do I do with this token? So it's this extra layer of complexity, which nobody really wants, right? So that's actually one of the harder places to kind of play with regards to tokenization. But I do believe eventually it will get there. It's just not quite ready for selling yet. Said that Fusang's own equity is tokenized on the Ethereum blockchain, so all the shares of our company are actually on are actually ERC20 tokens. The other areas which I think are going to be interesting, I do think that these private equity funds and are going to be interesting for tokenization, and I do think that's an easier distribution story. So we do see GPs coming to us saying, how do I get access to liquidity, right? Because the GP sitting in Europe, it's like they have this vision of like Asians have lots of money, and they're like, I don't know where to go. And then when you look on the map, Asia's clearly not one country, it's quite big. So that kind of like the dream of accessing Asian distribution or global distribution, I think that's enticing for GPs, but there's no real market infrastructure to do some of this right now, at least not easily. And most of it is, if it does exist, is fairly new. And obviously there is some question marks with regards to the legality or the testing of the legality of these pieces of infrastructure, right? None of it's gone through any court case as such. And most of the court cases are actually about cryptocurrency theft or fraud. So it's we're quite a way away from making this real, but there are some material experiments you can see already across the whole region. And I think certainly the bond space is one of the most obvious spaces where you can start to test existing legal contracts, which effectively is some form of term sheet that's in token form, and then the distribution channels can be built around it. So I think 2023, 2024 is going to be really interesting, certainly from an Asian perspective. I can see a lot of focus going into this space. But are all these projects going to end up commingling and cross-connecting? I think there's a huge unknown here, and we're going to have to wait and see.
Dominic, if you remember from our earlier webinars, really good ones, one of the problems that's plaguing the whole process is standardization, interoperability. Need it, man.
Yeah.
If I may, we've just finishing off some research on exactly your point, Kelvin. I think for me, there's 2 points that actually follow on, I think, really nicely from what you're saying. One is that it's hard to break out of the retail space at the moment for private equity. So private direct issuance to retail is reasonably straightforward because they're, as you said, legal structures are not so probed. And second of all, ultimately, there's much less need for data disclosures. But when you start when people want to be able to price risk in a sophisticated way, it's very hard. The platforms don't exist yet to be able to communicate the kind of deal room data in a smooth way. The other thing, though, that's really surprised me in the private equity space is the value of the shareholder relationship. So those who have succeeded have, consistently say that the real driver in private equity is the ability to actually really engage consistently and on a more bespoke way between the issuer and the ultimate investor. And that visibility in a world of ESG, shareholder governance, stewardship, and everything like that is kind of rising to the top of the value. So I think exactly to your point, there's a huge amount of value in it.